All right. Our next guest is very special to me. Our next speaker is not, I guess a speaker. But his name's Steve Jacobs.
Jake. Mm-hmm.
And Jake.
Jake.
I was fortunate enough to have Jake as my chemistry and physics teacher in high school.
Hey.
Now.
Hey, Tom, what's 7 times 8?
What he wrote in my yearbook back then is, where's that lab assistant?
There you go. Okay.
Jake is also a consultant for the Mythbusters. Sorry. Discovery Kids. Let's see. National Teachers Science Association.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Long time, 52-year science educator in Kansas. Come on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where we used to actually learn about good science, thanks to people like him. Okay. Jake's done like 100 million things that are awesome for science, including promoting a lot of science to the youth. Making at the Kansas Cosmosphere, where this shirt is from, what was it, the Goddard's?
Dr. Goddard's lab, yeah.
Robert Goddard's lab, he wrote that script. It's still been going, about 30 years now?
Something like that.
Yeah. So I could talk about him all day, but I want you to see what I think is an awesome teacher of science.
There you go. Right there he is. I have no idea why I'm here. Tom said this was a granola group. He said you're a lot of nuts and flakes and an occasional fruit. Is that what it is we have here today? Okay then. Well, my name's Steve Jacobs. I'm Jake, and this is my 52nd year instructing science. I was a college professor. I met him when I was in graduate school. I taught to pay my bills while I was doing graduate and postgraduate work. And I started out my life as a chemist and a physical chemist, researcher. And then in 1983, this new thing called cable television. And so I went to work with Don Herbert, Mr. Wizard, who was on television for 50 years. And I was his trainee sidekick for many years. And he opened a lot of doors for me in my professional career, so I thought I'd time to pay something back and help Tom out of the hole he dug himself into again. And I did teach Tom one thing: always arrested, never convicted. It's just the thing. If he's not arrested from time to time, he's not having any fun. But just no convictions, Tom. Are you okay with this? No, you're batting 1,000, right?
It's the truth.
No convictions yet. So there you go. I'm proud of the man. But I'm here on official royal business. I have a royal title, believe it or not, given to me by the Duke of Kent in London in 1995. And I didn't bring the staff, but I did bring I went to the vault and got the bracelet out. And so this is the bracelet. It's been worn by the 4 wizards. Let me put a picture of the wizards up here. Here we are. Let's see, get this up there. I'm not very good at this. But there we are at the Royal Institution. This was 2 decades ago. And the statue, of course, is Michael Faraday, the world's first scientist. Before his time, it was called natural philosophy. And Faraday was the world's first science teacher. He thought maybe the children would want to learn about these natural laws. So he instituted on a Friday night. This is what, Saturday night? Missed it by a day. But on Friday night in London, they still do it. 200 years later, they bring kids in off the street and teach them this strange new thing called science. So we had a gathering of wizards, and that's the night I was inducted as Wizard 4, and their Wizard 2 is represented by his son. Hubert Allier you old folks might have remembered the Absent-Minded Professor on a Disney movie. Well, that movie, Disney made that about Allier. Saw him at the World's Fair in Brussels and at the World's Fair in Seattle. And Doc Allier was my chemistry teacher at Princeton half a century ago. His chemistry teacher's name was Marie Curie. It just kind of passed on. So when Allier got too old, he passed the wizard torch to Don, and then in '95 he passed it to me. And so my job before I get put in a box is to find Wizard of Five. And it's a title that's been passed on. And it's really kind of neat. So I came here tonight. I said, I'll go to Washington, see if I can find a wizard candidate. You know. I'm just looking. I'm just checking things out, you know. I offered him $50 for that hair, you know, and he's thinking about it. Yeah, you little creep. That's all right. Yeah. He just sitting there ignoring me. Listen, now this is an odd thing because I am a Methodist lay speaker. But don't laugh. Don't you spit at me. We share something in common. Because I have an issue. I live in Kansas, and I get my ass eaten about science and religion regularly. My next door neighbor, 2 houses down, is the publisher of the Wichita Eagle. And we had some problems a few years ago with the State Board of Education. And so the editor of the paper would come to me and say, hey, Mr. Wizard, what do you think? What are we supposed to do? Creation, evolution? I couldn't win. And I had to crawl under my bed and suck my thumb. And I said, what am I going to do about this? So now I'm in a spot where I can't tell anybody where I live because I can't get anything published. Or Discovery Channel won't work on anything if they know I live in Kansas and I'm a scientist there. And you think it's kidding, it's the truth. So thank goodness, I was chief scientist at Discovery Channel I just retired this last year. I got so daggum mad because they decided when they went public with their stock that they would get rid of science and put in Honey Boo Boo. And they did. So because Honey Boo Boo sells more beer and Ford trucks than did I do that? Oh, it's the chair. If I did that, I'd be proud of myself. I'm back. You know? I'm going out dancing tonight. Show you a couple of pictures. Well, see, the problem that you and I share is all this arguing about religion and science, we bat our heads, and you guys get mad, and I get mad, and everybody gets mad, and we're chewing, this stuff. Well, Faraday had a problem when he was doing his thing. And by the way, Michael Faraday is the real Harry Potter. That silly girl wrote the book about him. And then Don and I were saying, dang it, we could have written that book. Oh, we could have had the $1 billion she's got. But that man right there, when he was 12, he was a bookbinder's assistant. And then he read books, natural philosophy, and became the world's greatest scientist. If Nobel Prizes would have been around when he was alive, he would have had 4 of them. And every scientist just about on the planet said, come on, who's the best guy? And they said, Faraday. Everybody loved him. If you get a 20-pound note, he's on the back. And he's doing, it was a special one for Faraday. Faraday's 20-pound note. Queen's on the front. Just look it up. Faraday, 20-pound note. He's on the back. And he's at the Royal Institution, which is about the size of this room. And he's at a table doing what we're doing tonight. So what I thought I would do tonight is do what Faraday did in 1822, because they had people in town that wanted to burn him at the stake for being a witch, because he would make sparks come out of rocks. He was making an electric current out of things. And I don't know about that. He was doing some weird stuff over there, and so they thought, there's something going on. We better just burn him and get rid of him. So he had to convince people what this new thing, science, was. And here's the situation. If I passed out a piece of paper to these are smart people, right?
I think a couple of them are.
A couple of them. Well, I know the way it always works, the smart people sit on one side and the good looking on the other. Have you ever noticed this?
That's why I'm in the middle.
That's why you're in the middle. I'll just talk to you then. If I passed out a piece of paper and said, would you please define what science, just write out the definition. If your grandkid says, Grandpa, what's science? And there's 300 people in this room, how many different answers would I get? 400, yeah. Now, it's the truth. That's the truth. Yet we teach science, taught science for 200 years now. People still don't know what it is. We argue. And half of the arguments that you and I would have because of our different beliefs was because we haven't sat down and said, well, let's define what science is. And I would guarantee you 80% of our arguments would vaporize if we would just sit down and do that when it comes to scientific issues. Now, I inherited from this guy right here, Mr. Wizard, I inherited something. Besides, I've got the bracelet and I've got the staff. You know, in the Harry Potter movies, Dumbledore, you know, that's Sir Humphrey Davy was Faraday's boss at the Royal Institution. They had a staff that he walked around Europe with. And that's what gave them the idea of a wizard. And Queen Victoria called this guy wizard because wizard means wisest one. It doesn't have anything to do with witchcraft or magic. It's the wisest one. And she said, Faraday taught us how to think so we can enjoy the beauty of the universe. Scientists have a front row seat on the universe. They get to see things better, closer, nicer. Am I doing that? Am I having this effect on you? This is good. I'm a powerful wizard. Hey. I inherited a group. This is the advisory council for Mr. Wizard. Right there. And he got bone cancer and died on me, the rascal. So there's Leon Lederman, Nobel Prize in Physics, discovered them at the Fermi Accelerator, and Shelley Glashow standing next to me. And there's Dean Kamen, the guy that invented the Segway, and he's got more money than anybody in the world. And there's Carl Sagan's first wife, Lynn. And anybody know Carl Sagan? Yeah, okay. According to Lynn, he's an ass. Good riddance. Okay. Yeah. This is the gal that helped invent the microwave oven. And this is my girlfriend. My wife said I could have. She's my girl. Rosalind Yallow. She discovered the radio immunoassay, how to detect things. You know. And I was given the charge by these people if I'm going to go do the wizard thing, is to get people to understand what science is so they'll quit arguing about it. So this is to what we're going to do tonight, and the time I've got left is I'm going to do what Faraday did in 1820. For those of you who are interested, the rest of you can take a nap. And if you're like me, a Methodist, you can sleep with your eyes open. Hey, I learned that. I know what's cooking. And let me show you another picture too while I'm here. Let's see. Oh, somebody asked me the other day, hey Jake, what do you do for a living? I'll show you a picture. This is what I do for a living. Here it is. That's what I do. I try to get young people to see something beautiful, science. And as you can see here, he's excited, she's excited, he's anticipating. They don't know what the heck's going on. This gal's terrified right there. And so I enjoy getting them to do that. I like that. That's what I put up in the office. That's my picture. That's what I do for a living. I've done it for about 50 years. So, let's see. Let's see how this group does here. Okay, we had a picture there. See, when I went to apply for the Mr. Wizard job, he handed all the candidates for the job. He said, would you put a caption under that picture? And that's what I wrote under the picture. So I wondered if that's why I got the job with Mr. Wizard. Oh, I don't know. I thought that's kind of sad. That's sick humor, isn't it? I'm sorry about that. So I can tell you stories all night long, but I better get with it. So let's just see. Now, let's pretend like you're 10 years old. So if you've seen any of these activities, which some of you have, how old are you? 11. Very good. What's 7 times 8? Hey, Tom, what's 7 times 8?
78.
There you go. And he's not kidding either. This is the world's first science demonstration. Faraday did this in 1820 on the Friday night discourses, trying to explain it. And the front row was the king and the crown prince were sitting there, and the crown prince was 10, 11 years old. And they were saying, now what is this science thing, and why are you getting the Royal Institution in trouble, Faraday? What are you doing? He said, well, I'm going to try to get you to think like a scientist. Okay? So, science is a set of skills. You know, we always hang things on science. Oh, the universe is big. That's science, and science is this. Science is. We keep hanging. It's like having a Christmas tree with too many decorations on it, just buried with decorations. You know, and science all these things get hung on science, and most of them are good, but it's too much. Science is a set of thinking skills, and you can think like a scientist either as an average person around the house frying eggs and bacon. You know, a scientist learns not to fry bacon naked. You learn this, all right? I learned it real quick. Well, from the top, you know, I wasn't completely naked. I had my shirt off. Well, you just don't do that when you're frying bacon, do you? Or you could be a professional scientist, like a musician. You can play the fiddle at home, or you can do it for a living. And tragically, we always try to get every kid, you got to be a professional scientist. And I want you to just be an everyday scientist. Think like a scientist. So you're 10 years old, right? So this guy, if you had some hair, it'd be 10. So what's your name?
Mark.
Mark. So pretend like you're 10.
Okay.
Now you recognize what I made this out of? Just a plastic bucket. And what did I do to the bottom?
Cut a hole in it. Looks like.
I cut a hole in it, and then I put this piece of whatever that tarp on it. You can put a shower curtain or anything, or just cut your dad's seat covers and put it on there. Now remember, you're 10 years old, right? So think like you're 10. Now Mark, since everybody can't, would you report? Would you look in the bucket? Is there anything in the bucket, please?
No, well, there's air.
No, you're not supposed to say that yet. He just blew the whole thing, didn't he? He blew the whole thing. And he's supposed to say, why, there's nothing in the bucket, Mr. Wizard.
No, there's nothing in the bucket.
There's nothing in Mr. Wizard. And then I'm supposed to say, well, isn't there something? No, there's nothing in there. I'm looking, there's nothing in there. And then I try to say, the first thing you got, if you want to be a scientist, the first skill, the hardest skill for any human being is to learn how to think before you think before you speak. No. Hey, Tom, how do you keep a turkey in suspense? I'll tell you tomorrow, okay? That's what I'm saying. This is going to be a long night. Actually, there's air in there, and before you came in, Mark, I squeezed some air and made little air cannonballs. And Faraday did that with this thing. And you grab some air and you squeeze it in a little ball, put them in there. Then you can shoot them across the room. You can see. You feel it? Oh, you feel that? Oh, did I get you? Got her? You see it? Oh, did you feel that? Oh, okay, let me see. Let's just right here. What is your name?
Logan.
Logan. In case I have an accident, everybody say goodbye, Logan. Hold still. Hold still. Now, Faraday could do this at 50 feet. He called it his universal cat tormentor, right? Here we go. Oh, I missed. Oh, there we go. That wasn't very good. Hold on. That didn't show up very well. So let's try this. Let's do it this way. Now, my physics teacher back in 50, whatever, over there at East High School. Oh. Yeah, so Willard Gilmore, 58. I had a crush on Peggy Kernahan. Oh, she's hot. But I was a nerd, and there was no way that was ever going to happen. So she was at her locker, and I stepped out of the physics room and shot her with a puff of air. And she didn't know who did it. Boy, did I enjoy that. That was pretty hot stuff for me. You get old Peggy. Now hold that up like the Statue of Liberty. Okay. Okay, here we go. There we go. Oh, I missed. I'm not very good tonight. There. Oh, almost had it. There we go. Sweet. Which leads us to the second skill of being a scientist, because all science is a set of thinking skills. No more, no less. It doesn't get anywhere near religion, doesn't get anywhere near literature. It's just a set of thinking skills, period. Second skill of being a scientist is scientist. Could you see that puff of air? You couldn't see it, but you could see the evidence of it. Scientists are always looking for evidence, because they're usually never there when the thing occurs. Sometimes they're lucky and they're there. most of the time, you're there before or after or sideways. You don't see it unless you're really lucky. So scientists are always looking for evidence. There's a third skill called modeling. Now, Dr. Allier, this is so cool story. I tell you, so cool. He was my physics guy at Princeton. And he kind of latched on to me, and I latched on to him. He had polio when he was a young kid. So he spent his last 2 years of high school in bed at home. So he graduated when he was 16 and went to Princeton when he was 16. That's where he met Madame Curie. She was visiting there. But when he was an older man, his next door neighbor was this German scientist who came to Princeton to avoid the Germans and worked at the Institute for Advanced Studies, Albert Einstein. And people would come up to Allier's house. Hey, is that where Einstein lives? Yeah. Where's his laboratory? He said, doesn't have one. What? He said, Einstein did all of his experiments where? He said, they were called experiments of the mind. So all Einstein had was chalk, a chalkboard, a pipe, some pads. Everything was all theoretical on a chalkboard in his mind. So I want you to try to do what Einstein did, is to picture. Now you haven't seen this. Remember, you're 10 years old, right? This is old news to you, but 10 years old, years 18, 20. What does that puff of air look like? And see, we don't model things very well because everything's chewed up and spit at us, even video games. Remember when we used to think about scary things in the dark and the thing under the bed? You remember the scary thing that lived under your bed? When the cellophane got stuck in the vent and you go, oh, it's going to suck my toes off in the night. But kids don't have that nowadays because everything's pre-processed for them on the video games. It's hard to get kids to model things. No, I just have the computer model it for me. 3D printer. What does that puff of air look like? Magic. So let's pretend you're 10. So give me some ideas. What would a 10-year-old say? Some ideas. A ball? A bullet? A disc? Cylinder? A shaft? Cylinder? Mushroom? Donut? Mm-hmm. What do you think? A ring? So how could we make it visible so we could see it? Smoke. You know because I'm a wizard, right? So Faraday did this, and at great expense, Tom gave me a budget for the presentation tonight. At great expense, I dug through the trash out behind the hall here and found this box and a trash bag, and I made another version of that with a bellows, see? Are you with me so far? And then so I just made another one, but this one will go a little slower than that one, see? So you feel the air coming out? You feel it a little bit, but not as fast, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do, Faraday did this. Are you having a good time? What the hell? What'd you do on Saturday night? Well, I watched No Fat Man walk around tormenting kids and whatever. Oh, he's arrested, never convicted. Hey, how can I say? I did it, but I didn't enjoy it. So I got a piece of smoke cookie from the studio. I still write Mythbusters. I still write that show. And actually, don't you tell anybody, but Mythbusters was written in Wichita, Kansas. It's written in Wichita, Kansas. The producers live in Australia and England, and Adam and Jamie live in San Francisco, and they have no scientific training whatsoever. And what did they want to come here? $50,000. That just burns my keister. So I'm going to take this. Can you light the match for me, Logan? Okay. Now this is for science, so do not enjoy this. Light that match. You hold still now, and I'm going to light the smoke cookie. And I'll put it in here. Now what's in the box? There. Picture in your mind, right? You can put out the match now. Picture in your mind the shape. You know, no, we're getting a little air currents in here, aren't we? There we go. There we go. We're just getting a little air conditioning. Well, ho ho. Now you're going to go home and make one of these, aren't you? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put it on you now, since you're such a bunch of smart alecks. Where's my pocket knife? Just a second. Oh, don't worry about the smoke. I read on the label here, it says, it is not a carcinogen, only has a slight laxative effect. So I want you to think like a scientist. Here, oh, let me get this thing here. What's a question you might want to ask me? Why is it a circle? What'd you say, square? All right, so what do you think? What do you think? Now, this is absolutely pure science. Right now, you're experiencing pure science. In your mind, Einstein's, I'm going to pop that thing. What's it going to look like? Now, you just have to think for a minute. I'm going to take the pan out and get up. Well, maybe there's enough smoke left. If not, I'll fire up another one. I'll just fire up another one. Let me fire up another one. You got those matches still? Get a little more smoke going. Okay. This crowd deserves more smoke. A lot of mo. There, you hold still. You hold still. You're making me nervous here. Okay. There we go. Smoke cookie. You can get them from a theatrical supply. What do you think? If you'll notice it, sometimes it comes out, starts as a square, and then it gets rolled into a circle by air pressure. Is it working? Do you see it start out as a square? Oh, kind of there it was a square. But it gets rolled into a, there, oh, almost a square, then it gets rolled by the air pressure. There you go. Now give yourself a hand anyway. Hey, Tom, I'm going to have you run this outside and get rid of that. Thank you. Pooey. Pooey. Okay, then. That's kind of cool, isn't it? You got to sit down for a second. Oh, it's all right. You guys are good. You're easy. Remember, you're 10 years old, okay? None of this smart stuff. Scientists have to be good observers. Scientists don't just look at things. They don't just see it. They observe. The difference between seeing and looking and observing is when you observe, you talk to yourself in your head what you're seeing. And scientists mutter to themselves a lot because they'll say, and they're talking to themselves in their head what they're seeing, as they do it as sometimes out loud or not. But they go, oh, look at the thing in there. Look at that going sideways there. Scientists are very observant. So let's think like you're 10. This is what Faraday did in 1820. Not exactly that. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to put a sentence. This is an old science teacher's activity. And I'm going to put a sentence up on the screen. And I want you to count the number of F's in the sentence. A, B, C, D, E, F. And when you are absolutely certain, don't say anything out loud. Just raise your hand and go, yeah, I got it. I know how many F's are in the sentence. Oh. All right, here we go. I get it ready. Count the number of F's. Shh. Raise your hand when you know how many F's. Give you 10 more seconds. Put your hands up when you got the F's counted. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. That's all yellowed out. How many F's? Now hold on. Are we all looking at the same thing? How many of you? I heard somebody say 6. How many 6s? There you go. Don't be a coward. Scientists have to stand up and say, I saw 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. And see, you're giving me hell for being a Methodist. We all look at the same thing and we see it different. How could that? Isn't that amazing? There's no trick. There's a trick. Oh. But see, you don't want to go to a doctor. Do I have AIDS or not? Well, now let's see. Am I going to die? I'll give you a. Shall we? I could milk this with little kids. I make them stand up. There's 6, and I know there's 6. And I sat down, and I had another kid stand up. And what is your name? My name is Billy Jones. Where do you live? Are you 7? I know there's 7. Well, tell him he's wrong. You're wrong. And I get them all wound up tight. You know, I was talking to the comedian. Grew up with a bunch of Pentecostals. Yeah, they were wound up tight. Boy, this is the way it is. There's 8, and that's the way it is. You don't believe it, you're going to hell. There's 8. So what do you do when you don't know how many F's there are? You come to the wizard. And the mighty wizard says, let's underline the F's. Because scientists, if you're going to be a scientist, one of the skills is being observant. I did not cheat. Of course, the trick is that F right there tells your brain V of. So that's why scientists came of Faraday's. You always count things backwards and forwards. Because besides doing that, it'll be colors and shapes. So scientists always count things backwards and forwards and up and down. That way you lose those tricks your brain plays on you, like of. What? Don't you feel just stupid now? Do I have any more pictures? I guess not. So let's do another activity. We had some people in the audience involved, hadn't we? Well, let's just see how smart they are before I waste my time. Because if they can't pass this one, then I'm going to go home. Faraday did this with bubbles, but I'm going to use balloons. Okay? I tell you what. Why don't you start passing out those balloons? And can we get another usher or two? You want to help? And we'll just everybody needs a balloon and a penny for the next activity. And when you get the balloon, there's some pennies there. Pennies right there in the frisbees. If you don't have, just hold the balloon in your hand. Don't squeeze it, and don't blow it up or don't try. Just hold the balloon in your hand or lay it in your lap. Everybody needs a balloon and a penny. And while we're doing that, there you go. Yeah, we practice safe science here. Now don't blow those up yet or anything.
Save them for later.
Save them for later. All right. Now I have 2 balloons here, same size. This is a very famous. Scientists are good predictors. No, the pennies are coming. That's the saddest thing. We have no pennies. We have no pennies. These people are getting all excited about balloons and pennies. You guys need to get out more often. This is sad. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on with this. I have a rubber tube, a piece of rubber tubing. I don't know if you can see it or not. And I put a stopper on the end that's got a hole in it. So I can blow right through here. Where's my microphone? I don't know. Anyway, I can blow right through. Can you hear that? Okay. I let the clamp go shut. Whoop. Now I can't blow. So now you're with me. Faraday did this with bubbles. I've got 2 balloons, same size. Scientists are good predictors. That's another skill. About 12 skills. Science is made up of about 12 skills. I'm going to blow up the first balloon. There we go. Sorry. Somebody take a picture of that. They think we're taking a collection at the. I see it doesn't go down because the thing's blocked, right? So now I'm going to take the other balloon. I'm going to blow it up, but not as far. Just a little bit. I'll put this one on the other side. And in a second, I'm going to open the valve. And you're going to tell me what it's going to do when I open the valve. Now, this is just 2 little balloons, 2 cents. But this is the way they load the landers that go to Mars. And they put balloons around the outside of the landers, and they hit the surface of Mars. They go whoomp, and they bounce around. And then instead of using up expensive fuel to straighten the thing up, they'll inflate or deflate the balloons to make it stand up. That make sense? That way you don't have to use rocket fuel to go. You just let. So let's pretend you're a NASA scientist, 10 years old. They're saying, hey, Bill, we're going to open the valve. What's going to happen? And buddy, you better be sure what's going to happen because it's $1 billion. It's sitting right in your lap. What is going to happen when the man opens that valve? Now, it's a $1 billion decision. $1 billion. The bigger one's going to get bigger. Little one's going to get littler. Well, this is some serious stuff here now. Now, here's the deal. This is what pure science is. It has nothing to do with religion or literature, art or history. It's a set of skills now. If you would pause and see, Americans can't do it because we have hurry sickness. Quick answers easy, Wikipedia, instant popcorn. You know, we don't throw it in the microwave. We don't cook it anymore, do we? You don't have to adjust the TV. Who in here shines their shoes anymore? Say, what? Iron your clothes? What? What happens when you lose the TV remote? Ha! The TV, you can't do it. We're hurry sick. But see, a scientist will go, let me see, when's the last time I blew up a balloon? What did I experience when I blew it up? You remember those long skinny balloons and you try to blow a long skinny balloon? Is it hard at the first? You go, and you give it to your old man to get this started for me. Give me a headache. Especially those little skinny animal balloons, you know. You go, which balloon's pushing harder? Now think about it. Let's see, what you're doing right now is absolutely pure science. You're going, let's see, big balloon, no, it's a little balloon. So you could figure it out, you get an A in science. Tom didn't get an A in my physics class. He goes, oh. I'll go ask Coach. He'll tell me. What's going to happen? Now it's equalized. And you think about it, when you first blow up a balloon, when's the balloon pushing back the hardest? Very beginning, before its molecules are stretched. And they get out there and you go, oh, forget it. Out to the very end, then it gets tight again. Yeah. So, and everybody in this room is smart enough to do it, figure it out. Trouble is, we don't take the time to predict anymore at all. We just don't, because it's just, okay. That's why we have wars. That's why there's Baptists and Pentecostals, because they go, it's going to go that way. It's going to go that way. That way. Let's do another one then. What we can all do. Yes. Let's take our little balloons. I'm doing okay. Am I doing okay? They all have pennies. Thank you. You did a good job with those. He's all worried because he gets the leftovers, see. So he's all. I got some meat in this action here. I know. So this is a world changer. What they call them 1,000-year discoveries. 1,000 years discoveries. Hey, I got to tell you a story real quick. So, hey Tom, I volunteer I'm on the board of American Leprosy Mission, and we raise money for leprosy. And there's been a cure for leprosy for 40 years. But this is a little side thing, so I'm putting in a commercial. Okay. And so, about 600,000 people a year get leprosy, and it's the worst disease on the planet. It's worse than AIDS, Ebola. It's just god-awful. And then the fact that you get it, people spit on you and throw you out of town and kill you. So you have to hide if you have it. And we can't even cure the people because we have to go in and lie. Why are you here? Oh, to cure your lepers. Oh, you're not. We don't have any here. If we did, we'd kill them. You get out of here. Don't you go around saying you're curing leper. We don't have any here. So it's like a Mission Impossible thing. Why are you here? We're selling ice cream. You notice anybody with an ice cream rash? No. So about 4 years ago, we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a vaccine? Then we could sneak in to vaccinate the entire village where one person has it and wipe it out. So we worked for 4 years, raising the money and everything. And Monday, I got the first vial of leprosy vaccine. Sweet. So it's just like, well, wipe it out. Wipe it out. Been around 6,000, 10,000 years. And so I thought I'd announce it somewhere. Why not here? Hey! That's kind of neat. It's like, really? It's just like, well, yeah. There you go. But this is equivalent to the leprosy vaccine right here. I mean, it's just like, so really? This changed the world? Yes. And here it is. What's his name? Sir Robert Boyle? I can't. These gas scientists. I can't remember. Charles and Boyle, and there's another one I can't remember. In England, the trick is on Sunday you make sausage to last you all week, right? So you grind up the meat and you stuff it in a funnel and it goes down in the gut. Then you twist that up and then throw it in a box, and by Friday it's getting a little ripe, but that's when it's good, I guess, if you're an Englishman. So the story is that they were stuffing the meat in the sausage, and that's what this is. This is not a balloon, this is a piece of bladder or intestine. So stuffing the sausage in there, and the scientist's wife said, "Did you notice that?" What? When you put your fingers in there? Did you notice that? He said, "Let me try that." This is what he noticed. He noticed the temperature change. Now, I don't have thermometers for everybody, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay this in the palm of your hand, and right down the front of your face is a little, all your nerve endings on your face end right there. That's why this is real sensitive. That's why they put a cold compress on you, and coffees, right here, nerves. So if you just put this up to your forehead, you'll say, oh, it's about room temperature, isn't it? Okay. Now what I want you to do, and don't do it yet, is just pinch the mouth really tight and the tip down here really tight. And then when I tell you to, don't do it. I want you to stretch it and put it up against your forehead and tell me what you feel. You ready? Now tell me what you feel. You get to feel the heat? Now let's shake it back to room temperature. And the question was, well, where did the heat come from? It isn't there now. Now you realize this is 200 years ago, right? And they're going, Well, the heat is not there now. But then it came out, well, how do you store heat? Well, they didn't know about molecules moving and rotating and translating. So when they get stretched, they give up the energy. There's heat. But I want you to think like a scientist, and this is what the scientist did. Well, there was heat coming out of that gut. See, you stretch it, you get heat going out. So what would be the opposite of stretching? Compressing. Well, what would be the opposite of heat going out? You guys are smart. So what should you feel if you stretch it first, let the heat leave, then put it up against your forehead and let it go back? What should you feel? Let's just see. Stretch it. Put it up against your head. Feel the heat. They go back together. Let's all do it together. You ready? Hot. Cold. You feel it? Hot. Cold. Hot. Cold. That's $20. I bet him I can make y'all look stupid at the same time, saying he didn't think I could do it. So what great discovery did that initiate? Refrigeration. How to get $20? Yeah. And that changed the planet, because then you didn't have to keep animals so close to your house because you had to slaughter them every day. Now you could, and the spice merchants went out of business because they didn't have to have the spice to kill the taste of the rotten meat in it. And it changed economies and transportation. Fortunes were lost, fortunes were made just because of this. See? Yeah, there you go. So just for fun, take your penny, and this has nothing to do with anything, but to see if you can think like a scientist. Put the penny inside your balloon and just blow it up so the balloon just kind of fits in your hand, then tie it off. I'm going to make mine about that big, and I'm going to tie it off. There you go. Now, we just made a device that is very useful. What device is it? Can you get that penny up on its edge on the inside going around? You kind of have to hold it. You don't want the penny, the thing to flop. You got to hold it like this. You don't want your balloon to flop. Get that penny up on the edge in there. And you notice if you get going fast enough and you rotate the balloon, the penny stays in the same plane of rotation. So what did we just make? Yeah, a gyroscope. They got one of these on the dash of every Beechcraft built. That's how a pilot can keep steady. Or, I did show this with Mr. Wizard to Carl Sagan, and he goes, aha, a black hole demonstrator. And there goes the galaxy getting sucked into a black hole. So I don't know. That makes us happy, doesn't it? I don't know about that. Well, okay, I know. I could keep on going. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you a story. I think I'll sit down and tell you a story. Okay. I'm not going to do this one, but a predicting activity, if you got some grandkids or anybody, or if some obnoxious neighbor, you just bet them how many pretzels they can eat in a minute. And especially kids. I've got some bow tie pretzels, right? And I'll just bet them. I'm not going to take the time to do it. But you do this when you get home with somebody. You know, make another $20. How many pretzels can you eat in a minute? And kids will say, I'll eat the whole bag. I'll eat 20. What did you estimate out in the hallway? How many pretzels did you eat? Well, why don't you go up there and open the bag. Let's go up and open the bag. He said about 20. Okay. I'll start the watch. Ready, set, go. Come on, get them in there. Slow down. Four and a quarter. Okay, you stop there. I don't want to do the CPR, man, because his mama's there. He got it slowed down, didn't he? I've never seen anybody. I did this with the Miami football team at an event, and we were sitting at the bar with Mr. Wizard and the football players and the nose guard, big guy, he's bigger than I am. He goes, "Hey, Wizard, do some science." "Yeah, come on, man." "All right, you see that bowl of pretzels?" "Yeah, I see that bowl of pretzels. What about it?" I said, "I bet you can't eat 5 of those in a minute." He said, "How much you on bet, old man?" I said, "How much money do you have?" And I had about $200 in my bill. He said, "I'll pay you 5 to 1. I said, "Hold up as many pretzels as you think you can eat." And he grabbed this man and said, "I bet you can't." "I'll eat them." He got about 5 in his mouth and he goes, "Damn you." Of course, about one of those will absorb all the saliva in your mouth, right? And it works every time. So if you want to torment your grandkids, it's a bit of science. How you doing there, Elvis? Now, you're long beyond a minute. He's got, all right, let's give him a hand. All right. So anyway, I'm going to tell you one story, and then I think I'll call it quits because we got to go, don't we? I brought more things than I could do. So my picture of Rosalind here, I'm going to tell you 2 stories about Rosalind. You can sit down. You go out and get a drink. You can take the See you later. You just sit there and chew away. See this old gal here, Rosalind. I said, "Rosalind, that's her Nobel Prize. That's a little one she had made a copy. It wears around her neck, see." I said, "Rosalind, how did you get that thing?" She said, "Really? You really want to know?" I said, "Oh, yeah, tell me." She said, "Well, radioimmunoassay. Some chemical reactions in your body only use a handful of atoms. How do you measure tiny, small amounts of atoms? How can you even tell if they're there?" Right. She came up with a way to do it. I said, "Well, how did you do it?" "Well, when I was a senior in college, a freshman in Bryn Mawr, an all-girls school, there was this guy that sang on the radio named Frank Sinatra, and he was so nice. And the head matron wouldn't let us have a radio in the room, but we wanted to listen to Frank Sinatra. Now, this little old lady there, she had a crush on Frank Sinatra back in the 30s or 40s, whenever it was hot. So they made a crystal radio and hid it. And they had to have an antenna. So she took the picture, the religious icon picture off the wall in the room and wrapped wire around the picture frame and made a circular antenna, then hung them back up on the wall. So when the matron came in, they wouldn't know. So when the matron left, she'd take down the picture and run it over to the crystal, and she'd sit there and move this frame to get the signal, and all the girls would listen to Frank and go, "Oh, oh." So years go by, and they're trying to figure out how are they going to detect radioactive iodine. They figured they could tag atoms and molecules with radioactive iodine because it would react with all those iodine reacts well with organic molecules. And radioactive iodine is easy to make and easy to detect, maybe, but how would you detect it in the body? And Rosalind remembered her radio days. She said, "Well, what if we just shot them up with radioactive iodine and waited for it to collect? Then I could just make a big wire coil on 3 axes. We'll just pass the patients through the coils." Picked them right up. They knew right where the tumors were gathering. And she got her Nobel Prize for this, right? The radioimmunoassay technique. And, there's other techniques too. It wasn't just the wire coils. And I said, "Rosalind, any idiot could have done that." She said, "I know. I was just the first idiot to do it." So anyway, another story. This picture, we were the judges at the National Press for the science competition, and they invited all Mr. Wizard's panel of advisors, and Dawn was sick. That's why I was there. And so I helped her around because she had a stroke. And she had to throw one leg out when she walked. But dang, I'm going to get around. Stroke's going to slow me down. So she had a cane, and she'd just throw that limp leg around in front of her and then take a step and then throw that leg around. And then I was a big old guy, so I just held on to her, and we just went flopping down, looked like a SpongeBob character, Fat Jake and Floppy, and there we went down the thing. So at the end of the competition, we were up at the front table. I had a tuxedo on. She was sitting next to me in her evening gown. President Clinton was going to come, shake the hands of the kids. And we were sitting at the front on the dais up there, and I had my stuff on. And they said, well, we're going to wait for the judges to stand up and go over there and wait for the president. Let's go out in the hallway. And I stood up like this. Rosalind stood up, and she started going, oh, oh, oh. And I went, what the hell? What's going on? She's having a stroke. And all the cameras there, ABC and NBC, they go, I go, what's the matter? Oh, gee, what do I do? Rosalind, she said. I looked down, and her underwear were around her ankles. Panties had slid down. I go, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, Rosalind, what am I supposed to do? She said, well, you're a scientist. So I was thinking, do I reach over and pull them up this way, or do I get down and shove them up that way under her dress? So I had my napkin here in my hand. I went, oh, excuse me one second. I bent down to get my napkin, and I just picked one leg and pulled out her panties, and I picked her other leg and pulled out her panties. I wadded them up ball, and I stuck them in my tux. I stood up like that. She goes, thank you. So we walked out in the hallway, and I'm standing there, and here comes Mr. Bill Clinton himself. Congratulations, congratulations. Looked at Rosalind, and he looked at me, and he saw these panties sticking out. And he went, all right. Good. He didn't really, I made that part up. But everything up till then was true. So anyway, well, listen, thank you for letting me be here. And I hope now, when we argue next, it won't be about what science is. And there won't be any more of this crap going on in Kansas about what science should be teaching. It's just skills. Just a set of skills, harmless skills, not going to hurt anybody. It's just going to help you. That's all. That's all. See you.
Okay. We're going to take about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes to get the desk cleared off.